This is the video about Time Capsule 2020. So we're going to talk about the highlights. And unfortunately, this is mostly negative. But we'll try to be as, upbeat about it as possible. So let's start, Jen. What is your first biggest highlight or disappointment in 2020?
Well, I would say the first thing that happened in 2020 that really impacted me was Kobe Bryant's passing.
Mm.
And the reason for that, as we talked previously, is basically he was just a huge part of our childhood. And we watched him grow up in his journey. Like we saw him, go from high school straight into basketball. And even though I wasn't even a huge basketball fan, you could just see the passion that he put into the game. And even when he played the playoffs and stuff, like I would watch him play and I would be like super impressed with, the way that he played, the way that he put the effort in to win. And later in life, I watched some of his videos like on YouTube and his interviews and about how much he practiced. And I think as he said at one point he couldn't dribble with his left hand, so he like practiced on his left hand until he could. It was just, and even watching his memorial service, they talked about the amount of passion that he put into his work and different things that he did that were so inspirational. Some stuff that I didn't even know about. So that was like super impactful.
It was so abrupt. You know what I mean? Like,
right, so unexpected.
He was
everyone.
He retired maybe, I don't know how many years ago.
I'm not sure. It was very recent though, or at least it wasn't felt like that,
And I remember being like kind of caught off guard. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, because like you said, like I wasn't a basketball fan like that to even care that much about a particular player. But Kobe Bryant wasn't just, I feel like, another player, because he was like in our community. He was a topic of conversation between the guys, when they're talking about the best of basketball and stuff like that. So it was just like, wow. And then when I heard in how he died and how he had his little girl with him, it was just like, it kind of just like messed with me a little bit. Like, wow.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say next is, and then unfortunately we got to kind of bits and pieces of the story. And then to hear that his daughter passed away with him along with the other families that were on the plane, it was very, very sad.
And it sits different when you're a parent yourself.
Oh, for sure.
I know everybody's going to be really shocked and sad by it, but when you think about like how you're supposed to be the protection of your children and how unfortunately they both went down together, and it was just like, oh, it really did break my heart. I remember talking to my husband about it, and the fact that he's French and he really isn't in like an American culture like that. Like he doesn't watch sports. He's not into basketball. And he was just like, oh, that sucks. You know what I mean? Like he really, it didn't impact him the same way. And I was like, and I remember that night just sitting up in bed, just thinking about my life. Like, wow, he was what, 43, I think, in his early 40s. And it's like, he's not that much older than us. You know what I mean?
True.
And
look what we've done, Jasmine.
Right.
In comparison. Like we haven't accomplished nearly enough to keep
exactly
or any of them.
It's just crazy. And it's like, wow, there's so much I want to do. Like I have to get at it.
Right.
Like right now. Like we have to do something today. Like and even with celebrity, it makes me think about celebrity too, because in a way, when you look at a celebrity, especially growing up, when you're a child, you think like they're invincible. Like, you know what I mean? When you see them on the court, they're like these demi-gods that are like admired by the world. and how they're, they're human like us. And it just really reminds you like how precious life is. And no matter how much money you make, how successful you are, you can be going like this.
Right.
And for me personally, it's like, if he's going and he's that special, you know what I mean? I know any day I can walk down the street and something can happen to me as well.
True.
Yeah.
God forbid. Yes.
And Kobe Bryant is one, but there was a lot of deaths in 2020.
There was.
Is there any
talking about Chadwick Boseman passing away? Yeah. He's another one who, in his lifetime, it was just, he had such an impact. I mean, when I watched Black Panther, I was so proud after watching that movie. And the crazy thing is, it's a movie. You know what I'm saying? Like, should that have affected me in that way? Maybe not, but it did. And I swear, like, after walking out of that movie, I'm like, wow, that was so well put together. His acting was awesome. And now knowing that he did so many films, because he not only did Black Panther, but I know he also played James Brown. Now, these are films that I have not watched yet.
I have not watched them either.
Yeah, but so I need to watch these films. But I think he also play Thurgood Marshall, please. I hope I'm not.
Yes.
But I believe that he did.
He played Jackie Robinson. And I've seen that, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So he also did other things that were very impactful, you know, in general. And losing him was huge too.
And not only that, like when I look at his story, he went to a historically Black college. He was really like conscious, and he purposely, because I remember seeing a commencement speech by Chadwick Boseman, and it was just so inspirational. And he was just saying how he had a lot of adversity, finding roles and not wanting to play the stereotype, and being in a role where he had to really struggle with his his integrity and feeling right doing the role and stuff like that. So it kind of really put a light on his character. And that is probably the saddest part of how, you know, he died so young. That's crazy. I'm trying to think of other deaths. There were so many unfortunate passings this year, but those are the two that I can remember just like off back. So the next thing on our list of highlights or the biggest like unfortunate events in 2020 was, of course, coronavirus. How did that hit you initially when you heard that it was here or there in the United States?
I hate to say it, but at first I didn't take it seriously because, you know, we've had a number of pandemics over the years that just never affected us as Americans. And I can't necessarily say why. Maybe it was leadership, maybe because the pandemic didn't reach as far, you know. So we have, you know, we've had the bird flu, we've had all different types, or I think we had Ebola at a certain point. And all those things, you heard of them from like a global standpoint to say, hey, these pandemics are out there, but it never affected me, at least on my level.
Right.
So this is the first pandemic where it's actually affected me. And I just never would have thought in a million years that it would have happened in 2020. So I started to take it seriously when all the toilet paper was going at our grocery store. So like what happened was my fiance, he calls me and he's like, Jennifer, go to the store and buy some toilet paper. I'm like, dude, I'm at work. I'm not about to stop what I'm doing right now and go to the store and buy some toilet paper. And then he was like, no, I'm serious. Like the toilet paper is gone. So I'm like, okay, whatever. So I leave work at like 6 o'clock that evening, and then I go to the grocery store and I go to the toilet paper aisle, which I just saw the day before, stocked full, completely empty. I wound up going to like 5 stores and to find toilet paper. And then I had to stock up on whatever it was that I found because it was literally all gone. And then we went for like several weeks without toilet paper, paper towel, or like disinfectant stuff, you know, and on the shelves. here in America, or at least in my area. So, and then even at my job, we had to like source locally, like for cleaner stuff, because our big suppliers had run out. I think they're kind of a little bit more prepared for it now, but that's when I was like, what the heck is going on, you know?
Yeah. It's so
And then I
weird
really
that you
started to
say
look
that.
into it. Yep.
It's so weird because that hasn't happened in here where in France. And I was thinking like, why toilet paper? Like, why toilet paper? And I don't know if it's culture. I don't know if it's like the mentality of it being different, or maybe French people just didn't like panic as quickly. I don't know, but like the whole toilet paper phenomenon and cleaning supplies and things like that didn't really occur, at least where we live. But like you said, when you said at first I didn't take it as seriously, and my husband in February got really sick. And he gets sick from time to time, and that's normal, especially in February, wintertime, etc. I'm like, okay, normal. But he got so sick where he called off work, and he never calls off work. And I thought that was a little different than the other times he like got caught a cold or something like that. So he got off work and he had symptoms of coronavirus. But at the time in February, coronavirus wasn't a thing here. So it was just like a really bad cold or really bad flu or something. And then when March comes and they tell everybody, okay, it's officially here. We're in lockdown. We're in the stay-at-home orders. I didn't even really make the connection at first because I'm like, okay, this is here now. But in retrospect, I'm thinking he may have had that, and we may have all had it earlier than what they expected. So yeah, coronavirus really, I don't know, was one of the top, well, obviously, because we're still in it.
Exactly. You know, it's so funny. They were like doing the Facebook memes of people celebrating their birthdays in March and how they were suffering. And then I just celebrated mine in November, and still going through the same thing, you know?
Yeah. Happy belated, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
And like you said, celebrating birthdays, because I was telling you how the day of my son's fourth birthday, we were told to stay at home. And it was kind of depressing, really, honestly, because it's like, wow, I can't even explain to my son why we have to stay in. Like, I don't even think he will get it, really. And it's maybe nothing to him because we celebrated, like had a cake and ice cream, and it was like he was happy. But in the back of my mind, it's like, wow, he's like growing up in a world that is so much different than how we would never have expected this for our kids. And that's another point I wanted you to talk about is the mental health part of this pandemic. How do you think that's affecting us?
I mean, that's a very loaded question, I feel like, because it's affecting us on so many levels. Number one, thank God for social media, because if we didn't have social media, if we didn't have Zoom, can you imagine this happening? And I think it did happen back like in the 1920s or something. I can't remember what disease it was, but there was a time when people were like wearing masks and stuff. I just heard about this recently. But whatever the case is, like, you know, we're so blessed in the fact that at least I can still pick up the phone, you know, call grandma, or video call grandma to where I can at least see her. You know, so I'm just grateful for that, because that's one aspect of it. Another aspect is like the economic, you know, aspect of, and just the social aspect for our kids of like, I can't take my kids out to do the same things that they were doing before. I can't take them to a Chuck E. Cheese right now, or a Zap Zone or arcade to get their, you know, to get their energy out, you know? So.
And that's necessary. Oh my God.
Hard.
I didn't even realize how necessary they need to be, like in fresh air, in fresh grass, like taking all their energy and letting it.
Right.
Yeah.
So that part sucks for us as parents as well as for the kids, because it's like, okay, now what do I do with you? Because we need our space and our mental space too. So
exactly, because I feel like there's no longer a separation, like where my life starts and the little ones, begins. You know what I mean? Like, if they go off to school for the afternoon, I'm like, I can relax. I can like exhale for a couple hours, and then we can pick it up again. You know what I mean? Or they can go to their grandma's house for a weekend, and then I can pick it up again, and then I'll be recharged. But it's like I never get that recharge moment, and that really does take a toll on my mental health personally.
Right.
Yeah.
We have we have to figure out our new normal, so that way we can feel like we're getting a breath of fresh air somewhere. We're taking time to smell the roses, so to speak.
Exactly. Nice plug. So yeah. So I would like to do another whole video on mental health. Maybe that will go on Patreon. So yeah, what is the third highlight for you?
Well, the third highlight I would have to say, because I am such an advocate for African American issues, is the Black Lives Matter movement. What happened with George Floyd, seeing that on video, very, very emotional, very tragic. Especially, and it's not just George Floyd, it's Ahmaud Arbery, it's Breonna Taylor, it's Sandra Bland, it's so many different names out there. Trayvon Martin, and it goes so much further back than
it goes
this
so
year.
Further back.
But this is the year that it seems like America woke up to it, even though Black people have been woke to it for a very long time, because we have to deal with it. Like there was after the George Floyd incident, even though there's always been fear, like when you get pulled over by the police, it's like, there's always some fear there. It's probably a lot more fear for Black men than it is for us as Black women, which is weird to say. But I definitely, and this is very hard for me to say, but because I don't like to live in fear, but I was actually kind of like saying to myself, I don't want to get pulled over, because you just never know. It's just fear behind that. Inexplainable fear.
I completely understand, because a part of me sometimes, when I think about, I miss my family, I want to come move back to the States, and then I look at my kids like, I don't want them to go through that. I mean, and it's not perfect in France by any means. There's police brutality here. There's reckless negligence by police, law enforcement. But it's so much different that it's not necessarily in the culture as much as it is in the United States. And I don't fear for Joel or Ayo growing up here because of that. For example, I was living, I came back for, I think it was grandma's 80th birthday. And I was literally just got off the plane, and my brother had picked me up, and we were going back, and we were stopped by the police. And I remember seeing the police ahead of us parked, and I said to my brother, okay, just stay calm, just don't look at the police, go ahead, blah, blah, blah. And just turn, because he'll probably...
Yeah, sometimes you just turn.
Just turn, you don't know where